Yeah, so hey, what's your name, brother?
My name is Stephon Portlock.
Okay. So you married to the lovely lady that was on here before you.
Absolutely.
Oh man, what a small world. What a small world. So you originally from Charlotte, right?
Originally, yes, sir.
Okay, cool. All right, that's rare. All right, so I've talked to you a couple of times, man, and we had some pretty deep conversations. And one thing that I always talk to you about is music.
Music.
Yeah, music. All right. We always talk about different names, J. Cole, Drake, huge Drake fan and stuff like that. But,
Absolutely.
So when it comes to music, man, like, what does music do to you? Because everyone likes music. It may not be the same genre, but what do you get from music?
What I enjoy about music is I feel like artists are in a unique position to just take everyday things that happen, whether it be happiness, pain, being confused, being insecure, whatever it may be, and they kind of like, I see them as people who go first. They're willing to go out there and say all the things that we think about privately, and take those private moments and bring them out into the world. And I just enjoy that exercise of being vulnerable and the stories that they tell and how they're not embarrassed. Because I think people spend so much of their life just being embarrassed about things, and only to find out if you say it out loud that other people kind of had that same experience.
So it's almost kind of like they're spokesman, like the person spokesman or spokeswoman.
Absolutely. And I feel like when you go to a live performance and you see the crowd interacting with the artist and they're singing every line, you see people is displaying a range of emotions. Some people crying, some people laughing. It just shows you that whatever that person wrote down and put the thought into how they would share that with the world is powerful, because everybody in that room is on the same page. I tell you a funny story. I had this experience one time. I went to a live show, and it was Jasmine Sullivan, and she has that song where she talks about being in love with another man. She's got a good man at home, and that song is very vivid in talking about how she had this great guy who does everything that women say they want. But the problem is that even though he did all those things, she's in love with another man. So it kind of like takes down the whole value of what could be possible. Now, I listened to that song many, many times as a man, envisioning that this song was about the relationship between a man and a woman, only to find out that when in that space of being at that performance that night, that there was a lot of gay men there who were identifying with that song in terms of them being in love with another man. And it was funny how our biases, are so impactful, because I learned something that night. I listened to that song hundreds of times probably, and never even picked up on the fact of how much meaning it could have to so many different groups of people. And it humbled me, because just seeing people have different reactions to the same story that she's telling in that story, it kind of proves what I'm saying. It's a magical thing that happens with the artist.
That's a dope story right there. I never would have thought about that either.
Never thought about it, but that night, being in that room and being in that space, it was like, how could I miss that?
Right.
That story, it just kind of shows how we all are connected. We spend a lot of time pointing out how we're different, but that story has the same power and meaning no matter who you love.
Right.
And so it kind of like humbled me to see that. And I was kind of embarrassed with myself a little bit that I never even picked up on the fact that it could cut across so many lines.
Yeah, that's true. So I mean, I say that, like you said, when you're doing at live shows and you see people crying, all these different emotions, one of the things music does is it connects people. So it's relatable. That's
right.
why.
Absolutely.
So that's why you get so many variety and ranges of emotions and stuff like that. So I mean, it's kind of like the same as like conversation too. You know what I mean? Because, like, at the end of the day, I never knew that story. I just learned something from you, man. So I just think the value of conversation and stories is something that helps a lot of people.
Well, absolutely.
So you was talking about a guy that a custodian, and you said like he was like the wisest man.
Yes.
Like one of the wisest people that you ever worked with.
Right.
So going into that before you met him, and we was just talking about biases and stuff like that. When you first met him, did you think that you would get the jewels from this man just by initially seeing him?
I didn't because it's funny. We just went to a church service today, and the pastor was talking about making a distinction between your purpose in life and your position. And so in the hierarchy of a school, the principalship or the principal is the person who's the leader, as far as on paper. But in all actuality, this custodian at my school, his meaning to me, is on a couple different levels. He's a person that I go to and I try to get wisdom from, and I feel like even though he doesn't have a position, he's really a leader because the way that he brings purpose to his job every day, it teaches us all. In fact, on a day-to-day basis, all of us see the custodian daily. We may not see the principal daily. We may not see her for days, or we may not even see her for a whole week. But we see the custodian daily. And every time he comes into your room or comes into your space, he has power and influence on how your day goes. He's the first person in the building. He touches every classroom, every office, and so in his interaction, he has a lot of power to use for good. And I also identify with him because I grew up not knowing my biological father very well, but when I became a teenager, the last job that I heard associated with my dad was that he was a head custodian at one of the local high schools. So whenever I'm in the school and I interact with the custodians, that's one thing that has a double meaning for me, is that even though I didn't know my dad well, I feel close to my dad sometimes just by interacting with the staff. Just thinking about how they move through the building and they have the ability to make you laugh, or a lot of times you have a problem and they help you solve a problem. And so it kind of like makes me wonder, or just kind of daydream by looking at them, that it makes me connected to my dad and trying to understand, what his career or his work life was like.
Hey, that's dope. Dang, that's crazy right there.
I mean, sometimes like when I'm in the cafeteria, I may be there in there supervising or going to get a student. But one thing that I try to do is try to show the kids that no matter what your position is in the school, we all can do something to make the load a little lighter for somebody else. So even though I have like a position where you would associate that this guy has some influence, or it's more like a leadership role in the school, when I'm in the cafeteria or in our common areas, I generally pick up paper and trash, and especially if I have cafeteria duty or something like that, I try to show the kids that it's not just the custodian's job to do that. That I usually will put on an apron or get me a dustpan or a mop and clean up in there as well. And so I'm trying to role model for the kids, but also it gets back to the story I was telling about my dad, is that it makes me think about, this is what he was probably doing.
That's dope. Hey, that's dope. All right, well, I know you're a busy guy, so I want to say I appreciate it. I don't want to take up too much of your time. As I asked your wife, is there anything you want to say? I don't know if you do quotes or anything. Before we sign off, is there anything you want to say? Anything else? I mean, I know you can talk forever.
Oh man, one thing. I don't really have anything to say.
All right, cool. Hey, I appreciate it, man.
Okay.
All right, cool.